All right, week 3 in CIT 82, and this is a current video for this particular semester, which is the spring 2024. Still crazy to believe it's 2024 already. And I have just finished creating the content for this week. This is all new content that you're about to go through for this course. And it's a very important week, as I mentioned last week, for us because we're moving from using GitHub to using GitHub out on the cloud to using Git on our local systems. So this is something during this week I actually have an assignment. Our discussion, our current topics is just on understanding those two concepts. Because once we do this work that you're about to do, you will then have a local dev environment. And that's really how I want you to think about this, because that's what it is. You're creating an environment on your local system that allows you to do the work for this class, and then you're learning Git workflow. Again, don't worry if you don't know it, you're going to learn it this week to then move that code. The ultimate command is push that code to GitHub so that you can share it with me or you can share it with the class. Okay. All right. So at this point, I'm actually in the first weekend of the semester, and so I haven't seen a lot of activity out on Discord, but again, if you want, you could still join. Just when you get on Discord, ask me to place you into the channel. I have put in simple syllabus. Let's just go look at it real quick because this is important to know. The tutor. So of course my office hours, come see me. Please do if you need help. Here are my office hours. And then here are Zach's hours. There's a tutor for this class. His hours are pretty easy to remember, 11 to 5 p.m. There's a link here. Oh, and actually I got to fix that. That actually was reported to me by somebody else. I'll fix that. And this is going to be something you learn this week. I'm going to change that link because it's a hyperlink to open in a new tab like this. So I'll fix it by the time you get here. But if I don't, you now know how to do it. But if you scroll to the bottom, you can see all the CIT classes that Zach offers tutoring for, and then there's this online tutoring which you can actually Zoom. And I believe, and if I'll correct this if I'm wrong, but I believe Zach told me his hours are on campus and online. I guess if he has somebody in front of him, he can't get into the Zoom until he's done with them. So you have many ways of getting help. You can come see me during my office hours. If my office hours don't work, reach out. I'll do my best to arrange something with you. But the key to this statement is get help if you need it. With a 9-week compressed mode course, you don't want to get behind. And there's ways to get help. So don't put yourself into that situation. One really important topic I have to talk about, because as I was creating the content for this week, I realized in last week, actually no, I didn't. We haven't talked about it yet. It's called the autosave. Okay, so this week you're going to install something called VS Code that is an editor. Now, there's other terms we could apply it to it. Some who have not more knowledge might go, no, Rio, it's an IDE. And it's like, it's not a full IDE. And it's like, well, what the heck is an IDE? And that's just a piece of software that helps you create not just websites, not just creating websites, but other coding environments. But for us, I'm going to recommend VS Code. I wouldn't know if you use something else. I just recommend using it because it's what I'm going to use. So as part of this week, and I'll talk about the sequence in a minute, you're going to install VS Code locally. Okay? That's why, again, I recommend, hopefully you either have a Windows computer, a Mac computer, or maybe a Linux computer, maybe a Chrome. Now, Chrome OS, there are some of the newer versions of Chrome that you can do this with. If you don't have those options and you're challenged there are some cloud-based stuff. There's just so many different ways to approach that. I don't go over that just because I've done it in the past. Like Replit is one. I've used Gitpod as another. And what this does is it creates a dev environment out on the cloud. And the reason I didn't is I went through the whole process about a year ago of showing students here's how to do it, and almost 95% of all the students did it locally. So I don't give that option, but I want you to know it exists. And you might not even understand what I'm talking about, but it's basically if for some reason you couldn't do a local one, there are options out there. You would just want to come talk to me to know what those are. But ultimately, what will happen is you'll have, now that won't exactly look like this because this is all the stuff that we created through this week 3. But what in VS Code when you're there, so just a note to self here, when you're updating HTML, okay, and you learn about how to do the Git workflow, but there's this option called autosave. And through the beginning part of coding this week, when I was coding the HTML, I had forgotten to mention it until later, and you'll hear me when I remember. So I'm telling you now because if you know, I actually create all the content and then I come back around and do this. That way I can do exactly what I'm doing here, which is tell you stuff I forgot to do during the way. So anyway, so here's, so I want you to know that. So what would happen, and I show this in the video, is if you were coding along, and let's just, you don't know this yet, if you created something, it would create, you would see a little dot there, and that would say it's not saved yet, and you would go to do the workflow, and the Git workflow that you're going to learn this week, and it may not be working, and just whenever you install VS Code, note to self, go to File, hit Autosave, okay? And the reason is, notice that little dot now is gone, because as soon as you update the file, it automatically saves, and I love that because it's just one less thing I have to think about. Okay, so this week, the course is organized a little differently, okay? So let's just look at it so you can see this. So for week 3, where you normally have a lecture, here's the lecture at the end, because what will happen is you'll go through, I'll have a short video here, I'll walk you through how to create a folder on your local system and clone the repos that you created out on GitHub already, the public and the private. And then I'll walk you through how to do some setup on Git locally, and then I'll teach you the all-important workflow that you will then do for the rest of the class. That when you get to this point, you're going to do this one-time setup, but this process right here is the process that you do over and over again for this class. It's pretty much, you know, everything we do in this class is going to be using this Git workflow from here on out. Where you were using Git Hub before, you're using Git locally. Okay, so what I want you to know is when you look at this content for week 3, these are videos. There's not actually work until you get to here. So it's the same amount of due items for the first Monday night. In this case, it's a holiday, so it might be a future semester, but just know that these are videos, and there won't be one. Now, this, like in week 2, there was one video for each one. There won't be for the Monday night because each of these will have its own video, and then I'll have a video how to do these. So you'll do a hands-on, you'll do a current topics, and then you'll actually do the lecture. Okay. Now the lectures are for me this week for part 1 and 2, and then for Thursday part 3 and 4, and that's we leave Thursday with a good setup for us now to move into more topics of HTML and CSS. So that'll be fun as well. And I also give you a preview for what we're doing in this class as far as the lectures. So hopefully that starts to help you as well. Okay, so the thing I'm going to ask you at the, at the reply here, because, sometimes students just, they go, yeah, it's kind of, but it is your attendance. So here's my question. How do you create space to focus? Like, what is it that you do in your life that helps with that? Or do you know, like, what works best for you to get the most focus, the most focused time and the ability to focus? right? Because sometimes there's just time. I just need a certain amount of time. Maybe I have, a common space that I work in. It's so hard because there's a lot of people, and so I have to find time when they're not there, or that I can put on headphones. Yes, that's what me, so that I can just focus in on the content. Part of it is like I have to have gotten good sleep. For me, I have to have worked out, gotten a good workout. I have to feel good. Because if I don't feel good, it's hard to focus on anything. So keeping all the things, it's a real balance. I know for me, and I see this for most people, is like, understanding what you need to create your best focus time, because the truth is the better we focus, often the less time we have to spend on something, because our focus allows us to really focus in on things. But part of why I say work ahead is so that if you run into something, you can get help. So, in your reply, unless you have a question about something I've already talked about this week, tell me yours. Like, what how do you create the best opportunity for good focus in your life? I definitely have some podcasts I could send to you. I've been thinking about posting one out on Discord I found the other day that was really good. It was a little longer than most people want to listen to, but it was so good. Anyway, because there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different techniques. Atomic Habits is one. If you don't know about that, it's a really good book, very very popular, about how to create these, just like atomic, like you kind of, once you create them, they almost become, automatic in your, but they're atomic too. They're like small changes that you make. Andrew Huberman, I love him. He actually has a whole podcast that just talks about how to be more focused, talks about techniques for learning faster. I mean, you know, are there some resources you could provide your classmates to help with this? Any of that would be great. Okay, that's your question in your reply. Have a great week. I look forward to connecting with you as needed, or just if you want to come by and say hi during Zoom, or just during my office at campus. I'm at BE 113 at Fresno City College. Today I'm not, because it's the weekend and I'm working at home because I got to get content done. Have a good one.